think it's working.
Woo!
Yeah, we're live. Okay.
Here we are.
We're live.
Are we live?
We're live.
Are we?
We're live on the YouTube. We're not ready to start yet. We're live, and I just realized what a disaster my desk is.
This is called a pre-show.
Yeah, the pre-show. That's what this is. All official and set up and ready to go. Just like we always are. Because we never fail when it comes to getting ready.
Ooh. Nice gif.
Drop the video down just a little bit. There we go. A little bit better. A little bit better. We'll go ahead and blur that background because my room looks like a disaster. Unfocus. Oh yeah, look at that. Magical.
It puts you in focus.
Magical. Alright, so that's a little bit better. Gosh, I usually clean my room before these, but I didn't today. How's my sound levels? Because my mic is picking up a lot of stuff.
I mean, I don't hear anything other than your voice.
That's good news. Okay, we're gonna go with that.
But if you're using that NVIDIA broadcast, it's gonna let that out.
See, that's what I would expect to see. But when I look, my mic is like pinging in the high greens when I'm not talking.
Oh. Yeah, your mic will pick it up, sure. But NVIDIA should filter it out.
Okay. Let me see. I can close you guys all out. I don't need you. We're live, so we're good there. YouTube looking good there. All right. Let me put out a tweet.
Teet.
How do I get the link to this again? I'll find it just a second. It'll be here. Just gotta see where it's at. That's not it. Link. We're professionals. Settings? No.
You got a lot of animated GIFs in this one.
I got a lot of pictures in this one, in general.
I'm just watching the slideshow.
How the heck do I get the link to this thing?
Aren't you gonna frisk me?
Where's the link? I'm at a loss, John. I don't see it.
What are you looking for?
The link to this stream.
The link?
Oh, here's stream URL. That's not right. That's where we're sending the stream to.
Let's see here.
Is it just the channel? Do we just link to the channel?
Sure. That would work too, probably.
See, that probably is what I don't like.
I don't know how to use this YouTube.
Here, I'll just go to the video directly.
The link?
There, okay. And I do hear humming in the video. My gosh, go to the video real quick and listen.
Yeah. I can edit all that out in the podcast. I usually do, and it turns out alright, but if you're concerned about it for the video, then...
Yeah, I'll go turn the fan off. Because I'm sure it's that fan that's making all the noise. Is it still in the 80s where you're at?
Oh no, we fixed all that.
Excellent. Alright, that should
just,
sound better.
2 leaks and a bad motor.
Yeah, I'll go turn the fan off. Because I'm sure it's that fan that's making all the
And a
noise.
sneeze.
It's not the fan making all the noise. Still in the 80s where you're at? Where is that humming
Oh
coming
no,
from?
we fixed all that.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, that
It was
should
just,
sound-
maybe it's me.
Turn
2
some
leaks
stuff
and a
down
bad
here.
motor.
See if that makes any difference. Yeah, I'll go turn the fan off. Because I'm sure it's that fan that's making all the
And a
noise.
sneeze.
It's not the fan making all the noise. Still in the 80s where you're at? Where is that humming
Oh
coming
no,
from?
we fixed all that.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, that
It was
should
just,
sound-
maybe it's me.
Turn
2
some
leaks
stuff
and a
down
bad
here.
motor.
Oh, that seemed to help. See if that makes any difference.
What was it?
Yeah, I'll go turn the fan off. Because I'm sure it's that fan that's making all the
And a
noise.
sneeze.
We're in a feedback loop, by the way. It's not the
We
fan
are?
making all the noise.
Oh, yeah.
80s where you're at? Where is that humming
Oh
coming
no,
from?
we fixed all that.
Excellent.
Ow.
Excellent.
I don't hear a feedback
Alright,
loop.
that
It's
should-
just,
There is
maybe
one.
It's me.
It's because I'm watching the stream on delay.
2 leaks
Stuff
and a
down.
bad
Oh.
Oh,
motor.
that seemed to help. See if that makes any difference.
Yeah, I've got mine What was muted.
Yeah, I'll go turn the fan off. 'Cause I'm sure it's that fan.
Sorry, I'm troubleshooting
We're in a
live here.
feedback loop, by the way. It's not the fan
We are?
making all the noise.
Oh, yeah.
80s where you're at? Where is that humming
Oh
coming
no,
from?
we fixed all that.
Excellent.
Ow.
Excellent.
I don't hear a feedback
Alright,
loop.
that
It's
should-
just,
There is
maybe
one.
It's me.
It's because I'm watching the stream on
2
delay.
leaks
Stuff
and a
down.
bad
Oh.
motor.
Oh, that seemed to help. See if that makes any difference.
Yeah, I've got mine What was muted.
Yeah, I'll go turn the fan off.
All right. Sorry, I'm troubleshooting live
We're in a
here.
feedback loop, by the way. I'll go ahead and mute the stream for the sanity of our viewers for a second. Or I'll say the stream that I'm watching that's delayed by like 30 seconds.
Yep.
I wonder if there's a way to toggle that delay.
All right. Sorry, I'm troubleshooting live
We're in a
here.
feedback loop, by the way. Toggle that delay. All right. Sorry, I'm troubleshooting We're in a
live here.
feedback loop, by the way.
You should
Well,
turn the stream on. It's such a mess right now.
All right, here's what I'm going to do.
Toggle that.
In case it's this
Toggle
back
that
here,
delay.
I'm turning it all the way right. Waiting 5 seconds. I'm turning it all the way left.
Sorry, I'm troubleshooting
We're in a
live here.
feedback loop, by the way.
You should
Well,
turn the stream on.
Now I'm
It's
turning
such
it
a
up.
mess right now.
Now we're going to see which ones makes it quiet.
Okay.
All right, here's what I'm going to do.
Toggle that.
In case it's this
Toggle
back
that
here,
delay.
I'm turning it all the way right. Waiting 5 seconds. I'm turning it all the way left.
Sorry, I'm troubleshooting
We're in a
live here.
feedback loop, by the way. All right, I want it right.
You should turn the stream on.
Now
Okay,
we're
I'm turning
right
off
now.
the
Now we're gonna
stream.
See which ones makes it quiet.
Okay, so all of you who are watching and are in this horrible mess of a loop of us saying the same thing over and over again, that should be over now. My apologies. We were getting, as you heard, a pretty bad hum on the stream, and I was trying to take care of that. And unfortunately, in order to hear Mr. John, I have to pipe my desktop sound through into the stream. So you hear everything that I hear, and the mic was getting it, and it was just, it was a mess. But we should be better now. Should be sounding good. Again, my apologies for that. When we get to the VOD, we'll wind up cutting all that out, so we won't have that as an issue. So, now the rest of this setup. Let me get our Audacity set up and recording. What was that, Mumbles? Well, let me just slow that down. Big boy did it.
Big boy did it. Big boy did it.
All right. Here. Check 1, check 2, testing my software. Check 1, check 2, testing my software. It works. Okay. I'm hitting record on Audacity. I see my wavelengths rolling, so we're looking good there.
I guess I should do that as well.
The tweet has been twatted.
Ew.
That's right, I twatted the tweet. I have my tea. I have my notes for what good they're going to do me today. What?
We have sound. Just
Okay.
checking my sound.
Good. I got my Spice Awards ready. Gladiators ready. If you get that, we can be friends.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
I guess, Mr. John, that I am ready to go.
Trying to think of an American Gladiator, and I can't.
Just think of like Thunder.
Thunder.
I'm sure Thunder was one.
That sounds right.
Fireball. I don't think Fireball was one, but you know, generally you can think of things like that, and there's a good chance it's a gladiator name. Turbo.
Oh, I bet Turbo's one. I must now look it up. Atlas.
Atlas, of course. Got the whole world on his
Beast.
shoulders. Beast.
Blaze.
Oh, Blaze. There we go. That's the Fireball.
Bronco. Crush. Cyclone. Dallas. Flash.
Lash.
Gemini. I remember Gemini.
I bet you do.
Jade. There's 2 Jades. Anyway.
All right, sir.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do a little sinky dinky do.
1, 2, 3.
All right. You can sing my boop with your sinky dinky do. And I guess I'm ready whenever you are. I don't have an intro. I'll just think of something. Let me see. All right, I got one. Wish I had a fedora.
Once again. Right. Okay. All right. Welcome to the CinemaMen podcast. I'm your host, John Murphy, and I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Hurdle.
So, is the enemy of my enemy my friend? Or the enemy of my friend the enemy? Or the enemy of my enemy of my enemy? The enemy of my enemy is my enemy.
Glad you got that straightened out.
Yes. The enemy of my enemy is my enemy.
But who is the enemy of your enemy of your enemy?
Well, the enemy of my friend is the enemy of my friend or the enemy.
What if your enemy has an enema? Do you go to the hospital?
Okay, so that's not going to be the only Batman comparison we've had to this movie. This movie needs an enema.
Yeah. What a coinkydink.
You know what? This movie is the result of 89 Batman getting an enema.
All right,
That's the logical conclusion.
Here we are talking about what the movie is, and we haven't even introduced the movie. So let me shut up now.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Happy to be here. On tonight's episode, as Matt alluded to, we are reviewing, well, sort of alluded to, we are reviewing the 1990 action-adventure film Dick Tracy, starring Warren Beatty and Madonna, directed by Warren Beatty. This is a spoiler podcast, so if you've never seen this movie and don't want to be spoiled, pause this episode, go watch the movie, and then come back. You can stay tuned until the end of the episode where we reveal what our next movie will be, so you can follow along with us. If you would like to get in touch with us or give us your take on a movie, email us at feedback@cinemamenpodcast.com or check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/cinemamenpod. I also thought of a jingle if you can't spell CinemaMen podcast.
Oh no, here we go.
CINEMAMEN podcast.
There we go. There's our new theme. There's a theme? That's our new theme. Our new theme. Let me try that. CINEMAMEN podcast. I already forgot it. Maybe it's not as catchy as we hoped, but I only heard it once.
No, it's not catchy at all. If you'd like to support us monetarily and have the means to do so, you can go to anchor.fm.
Hey, I gotta jump in here.
Okay.
You're talking about financial support. I want you listeners to hear this, because I know you have before if you've heard any other episode. You ready?
Ready. What are we doing?
That was me readjusting my chair. That squeak is this horrible chair that I've got. Please, help me get a new chair. Support us.
I couldn't hear any of it because NVIDIA Broadcast is filtering all of that out.
Well, I've heard many an episode where you can hear it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to edit that out. Yeah, so help Matt out. I mean, look at the guy. He needs a new chair.
My back. Oh. It's so squeaky. I can't change positions without everyone listening knowing.
So you can send all your chair money to anchor.fm/cinemamenpodcast/support. We use the money to improve the quality of Matt's chair. So in advance, thank you very much.
Now that would in turn make the podcast better, because our poor listeners wouldn't have to hear this squeak all the time.
That's true.
Maybe if I just get a little bit, I could just get some WD-40. That might do the trick.
Yeah, that's like $5. That's all you need. Hey, if you like video, we offer that too. Go to YouTube and search for the CinemaMen podcast. We record live every other Tuesday at approximately 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Subscribe to our channel, and you can figure out when we go live every single time. Because it's kind of confusing when I say every other Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy.
Uh-oh.
One more thing. What's up?
What, buddy?
Want to come in?
What?
I want to show you something.
Okay, very fast.
On up.
Very quickly, because I'm live.
On up.
Hey, you got Memphis Redbird.
On up, on up, on up,
Mimi
on
and
up, on
Papa
up,
gave
on
it to me.
What?
Mimi and Papa gave it to me.
Well, that was awfully nice. Did you say thank you?
I don't remember if I did or not.
All right, well, we'll say thank you tomorrow.
Okay.
Good night, dude.
You too. Oh, maybe sleep with me too.
Okay, maybe. Good night. Okay, sorry about that.
It was real creepy because he's blurred in the background, so
Yeah.
it kind of looks ethereal.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right, one more thing. We have started releasing a short form series every other week that we don't release the CinemaMen podcast. Cineminis. These are 30 minutes or less episodes where we talk about just random stuff. We just did one on obscure Disney animated movies, and we did one on actors that we think have the most range. So check those out.
They're terrible.
Yeah, they're raw, but
As
we're
a note,
getting better.
we do those raw. We don't edit them. So what you hear is pretty much what you're going to see on the live stream. So it's kind of weird that you're going to hear what you see, but you know what I mean.
See what you hear what you see. Yeah, we'll get better with those. All right, let's get started with Dick Tracy.
Let's do it.
The plot synopsis from IMDb.com for Dick Tracy. The comic strip detective finds his life vastly complicated when breathless Mahoney makes advances toward him while he is trying to battle Big Boy Caprice's United Mob.
Now, just to make sure that I'm understanding this right, Breathless Mahoney is from the Police Academy movies, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mahoney!
Now imagine the first one when he's getting in shape and running and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
You could see why Dick Tracy would be attracted to Mahoney. All right. So, this podcast is a living entity. And because of that, it evolves over time. And what we've done in the past with reviews is we've tried giving our review respectively, separately up front, and then doing a detailed review. We've tried doing a hot take where we do like a shorter review, and then we do the detailed review. But we decided that we needed to change it again because we didn't like the way it was flowing. So what we're going to do this time, and maybe going forward, is we're going to break down the movie into its parts. So we're just right from the beginning, we're going to talk about the acting as a category. Then we'll talk about the plot, then the cinematography, and it goes so on and so forth. And we're thinking that will spur more conversation and it'll make it flow better. And then at the end, we'll do our star ratings and give our overall thoughts on the movie. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is the acting of Dick Tracy. Matt, was the acting just phenomenal?
You know, I think my gangster name would be Squeaky Chair. Anyway,
Squeaks McGee?
The acting was okay. I don't think anybody was great in this, which is amazing to me because the cast is one of the most stacked casts I have ever seen in a movie, and that's no joke. Let me just read off a couple people in this cast because it's insane. You've got, of course, Warren Beatty. You know, it's a given. Playing Dick Tracy. But then you've got, who are some of the folks in this? Madonna, obviously, playing Breathless Mahoney. You've got Al Pacino playing Big Boy. You've got Dustin Hoffman playing Mumbles. You've got Paul Sorvino in it as Lips. James Caan playing, what was his character's name? I don't remember his character's name.
I don't remember.
Anyway,
I just know he was in it.
Kathy Bates is in this. Catherine O'Hara is in this. Tom Finnegan, Dick Van Dyke is in this.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, I did not notice Kathy Bates or Catherine O'Hara in this movie.
They both had small parts. Like when I was watching it, I was very closely looking for Catherine O'Hara, and I never saw her. So she's in the background, probably with a lot of makeup on. But anyway, all that to say, the cast is freaking stacked, man. I mean, have you ever seen a movie this stacked?
Probably, but not this stacked and this subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we didn't notice Kathy Bates. We didn't notice Catherine O'Hara. I barely noticed James Caan. I kind of did a double take. I was like, is that James Caan? And
is it
obviously?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is it James Caan or James Cain?
James Caan.
You sure?
Caan. He's from Elf and Godfather.
I thought it was Cain.
No.
Okay. James Caan. Very well. I'm glad to know that then. And that's for you guys out there too who thought it was James Cain. It's not. It's James Caan.
James Caan.
That's from John Murphy. You heard it here.
Murphy. Yeah, I mean, just actor after actor after actor. And I'm sure it was just due to the fact that Warren Beatty was a, I mean, even then he was a longtime veteran actor. He probably had a lot of contacts, a lot of connections, and he was like, "Hey, you want to be in the movie? Sure." But so you thought the acting was okay?
I thought it was very meh. Nobody had an outstanding performance to me. Like, nothing that I saw was like, wow, that's really good. You know, it wasn't bad. I don't think anybody was bad either. I didn't think anybody was good. Al Pacino in particular, not his best work. And that's rare for me to say about Mr. Pacino. But he was just kind of, I don't know, it didn't work. And it may have been that his performance was fine, but Al Pacino in that kind of cartoony gangster role didn't work for me with his weird body proportions and the makeup and everything. Maybe that's what threw me off, but I wasn't even impressed by Pacino in this. I mean, he did okay, but nothing that I was like, whoa, that's good.
I had a different thought on that. I actually liked him a lot in this. He's probably the standout performance for sure. Warren Beatty is just kind of this. It reminded me a lot of like Waterworld, which we just reviewed. Like Kevin Costner's role in that was very hard-nosed, stoic, not emotional, and Warren Beatty had a little bit more emotion in this, but he was very much this tough guy. He's always going to do the right thing, always follow the law, and you see a little bit of emotion from him when he's interacting with the kid and Tess, his love of his life. But he definitely played the more noir 1930s detective role, which this is based off of a comic book strip, or a comic strip, so that makes sense, I guess.
I mean, watching this makes me think Warren Beatty might have been a pretty good mariner in Waterworld.
Yeah.
With the lack of emotion we see over the course of the movie.
And the dude was 54 or 55 when he did this movie. I think he's one of those actors that just ages really, really slowly.
Yeah,
because
he looks good.
I saw a picture of him in 2001. He looked the same as he did in 1990, and he was 10 years older. And he's still kicking today. He's 84. But
he's
Al
a legend.
Pacino,
He's a legend, no doubt.
Yeah. Al Pacino, though, like, I remember watching this as a kid, and I didn't know who Al Pacino was, and I thought that's what he looked like humpback, arched over, like, kind of penguining around and ugly, like, I had no idea. And that's a testament to the makeup, but we'll get to that, but I just like how he brought a lot of energy, like he does in a lot of his roles, to the character.
That's true.
I would imagine a lot of it was improvised. If I had to guess, he was definitely the standout performance.
And while we're talking about Pacino,
yeah,
I've got to bring up the scene where he takes over the Club Ritz, and he's working with the girls, trying to get them to dance. What?
Yeah.
How crazy was that scene?
More.
And then he starts slapping girls on the rear end, and he's all being goofy and dancing. But then they're like, "It's 2 a.m. The girls are tired." And then he goes off, and he's like, "I'll mangle that pretty face, just like I'll mangle that piano player's hands." I'm just like, okay,
which he did. Yeah, he had some crazy moments. Some of the other cast members were good too. Madonna was surprisingly good. I mean, I kind of forgot that she was in Hollywood for a little bit. Like, I forgot that she was in A League of Their Own and this movie, and she did an okay job.
She was good. She was good for a non-actor. She was good.
Yeah. Yep.
Compared to all the other performances, like it didn't stick out like a sore thumb or anything like that. She did okay.
Yep. But also, I mean, the way the plot and all that stuff, that kind of drove the dialogue and what the actors had to how they had to act, and a lot of it was just very much this
Yeah.
1930s dialogue. This not very not very exciting necessarily.
Yeah.
Oh.
I definitely feel like they were kind of stuck, you know, in into the writing, into the script. Like, I'm sure they could improv some, but this movie exists in this kind of weird space where it's like, who's this for? You know, is this a movie for grown-ups? Is this a movie for kids? Like, you know, I want to say it was a movie targeted at children, but there's straight nudity in this film. Like, just straight up, you see Madonna's boobs in this movie. And when that happened, I was just like, what? So, and it's got some darker themes. Like, people get killed. There's gunfights and shootouts. And it's just, this movie exists in a weird space.
Yeah. I did want to mention Charlie Korsmo, who played the kid.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really good child actor. I do want to give him props for his performance.
Yeah, I agree with that. He did good.
Yeah.
Which I tend to be really lenient with child actors, but he did do a good job.
Yeah. He's better than most, I would say. Like, he had moments, you know, where when he's eating all the food and there's this montage of it with him eating food and when do we eat? When do we eat? And he's trying to be like Dick Tracy and trying to follow him, tag along, and it was good. I liked his performance of this kind of orphan character.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall for me, man, the acting is like a solid 5. You know, like, it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it just kind of was.
Yeah.
I don't guess I have much else to say there. Nobody really stood out.
No standout performance for you?
Well, I mean, I have a Spice Award for Best Actor, and to me, that was the standout performance.
Okay.
But if I say it now, then you'll know my Spice Award winner.
All right, so moving on to plot. This should be interesting. I personally thought the plot was poopy. There wasn't a whole lot there. It was mainly just a bunch of montages and then Dick Tracy trying to catch Big Boy Caprice. Big Boy Caprice kind of dodging Dick Tracy, and then Tess gets captured. Dick Tracy has to save her. The end, basically. And then you got Breathless Mahoney, who was played by Madonna, and she has this big crush on Dick Tracy to the point where she's doing whatever she can to get him, but also to take down Big Boy Caprice. It was just very light. Not a whole lot of depth to it. Not a whole lot of twists and turns. Like, there was one big twist in the movie, and it was hard for me to see it as a twist because I've seen it several times. I've seen the movie several times, so I knew what was going to happen. But what did you think about the plot?
So, you know, I don't like the plot. I felt like it was lacking. I felt like the pacing was weird. There were points in the movies where I had trouble staying engaged with it. My attention would get drawn in for a while, and then it would pan out, and then I would kind of zone out a little bit. And in fact, I had to watch the second half of the movie twice because in the second half I was kind of zoning out a little bit. So I wanted to make sure I saw it all and gave it a fair shake. And I got to thinking about, you know, what's the issue? Like, why does it feel like this? Because, you know, on face value, it's not a terrible plot. In fact, and this is something I'm sure we're going to talk about, it's very similar to one of our favorite movies on the podcast. That being...
Waterworld.
No, not World.
Oh, you mean our other favorite,
Because I know you know it.
Batman.
That's right. It's very similar to the Batman movie with Michael Keaton that we reviewed. You've got the main character is a superhero detective whose girlfriend gets captured by a guy who takes over the mob and is starting to take over the city. They wind up, fighting in kind of a clock tower, and they both wind up falling to their death, the main villains. It's almost the same plot. Although, if you'll remember, in that episode, I mentioned on the plot that it was okay. It was just kind of standard Batman fare. Batman fights the Joker. Mm-hmm. In this, it's kind of the same thing. You got Batman and the Joker. You got Dick Tracy and Big Boy. Here's the problem. And it took me a while to figure this out. But going into this in 1989, how familiar were you with the character Dick Tracy and the villains that he had?
Zero.
Exactly. It was a popular comic book in the 30s. Most people knew the name Dick Tracy, and if you saw a guy in a yellow coat, you were like, Dick Tracy. But that's about the extent of it. With Batman, it's a different story. Everybody knows Batman. Everybody knows the Joker. And so what this movie did was it threw us right into the film, expecting us to know all this stuff. We're supposed to know who Dick Tracy is. We're supposed to know, who Big Boy is, and who Flat Top is, who Lips. We're supposed to recognize these names, and nobody does. And so just getting thrown into the action like that feels a little bit jarring. Especially nowadays when we're used to, big character introductions, origin stories, things like that. We don't have anything like that. And I think that throws us off.
Oh, for sure. And even to your point, we know who the Joker is, so we know a lot about who the Joker is before we even get into the movie, like you said. But the Dick Tracy movie gives zero crap about developing the stories around Flat Top or Mumbles or any of these other characters. Even Big Boy, he's just a gangster.
Right. Why is he the big boss? He just is.
He wants it more.
He's the big boss. Fine. Nobody knows why.
Yeah. But since we're talking about the Batman comparisons here, we might as well continue on. Mm-hmm. It's not just the plot. It's the feel of the movie, the music in the movie. There's a point, the very first time Dick Tracy speaks, he's in a play. He's watching a play. Mm-hmm. And he gets a call on his wristwatch, and he whispers, "I'm on my way." And it sounds just like Batman. I don't know if that was intentional, but before that, they did a big pan shot of this painted backdrop, and I was like, "This is Batman." I mean, it's too eerily similar.
Well, and like you said, the visual styles are similar. Now, I would say that Dick Tracy actually went a little crazier with the visual style, and I think they did better, honestly, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But the visual styles are still kind of similar. Lots of muted colors with blue lights gliding things up. The difference being Dick Tracy, and we'll get into this, but Dick Tracy has a lot of bright colors used all throughout the film, which you don't have with Batman. Both of them have painted backdrops, although... that's like saying...
These are more apparent.
Jaws had a shark in it. You know what I mean? The backdrops in this movie we'll get into that too, but they're some of the most amazing things I've seen in movies. But to kick it all off, you've got Danny Elfman, who did the soundtrack for both films. And they're really similar. Mm-hmm. Really similar. If you... say you'd never heard all of the Batman soundtrack, you just had heard the Batman theme song. I could play you and say, this is the Batman soundtrack. I could play you 3 Batman songs and 3 Dick Tracy songs, and you wouldn't notice a difference. You'd think they were all Batman songs. They're that similar. And so that doesn't help.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder what was going through Danny Elfman's head when they were like, okay, you got to do Batman, and now you got to do Dick Tracy. If he was like, I can recycle some music here.
Yeah, maybe he was just really overworked, and it was like, I'm just gonna here. I'll change this from an E to a G, and there we go.
Definitely. Okay, let's get to the good parts of this movie, which is the art direction and cinematography.
Okay.
For certain, this is the best part of the movie, as you mentioned already. The use of bright colors, like immediately when they showed Dick Tracy in his yellow raincoat against the red wall in his apartment, like that's unique. That's something you don't see every day.
I don't remember ever seeing anything like it before, and to this day, I don't think I've ever seen anything where almost every scene you've got these muted colors that kind of dominate, but then in the background, in almost every single shot, you'll find at least one thing that is just bright and like red or green or blue or yellow, and it just shoots at you. Sometimes they do it with the lighting too. It's not always objects. Sometimes, like there's a scene when they're going over, like I think it's when Big Boy, right before the end, when he's trying to get over that bridge and he's like, "Jump, you can make it," and he's like, "No, we can't make it. We're not going to make that." But there's this red light flooding the street, and it is just bright red. And, you know, in some ways it's a little off-putting, but at the same time, it's really visionary, I think, and it's really artistic, and it's really cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can think of some things that have followed this, but not in the same way. Things that were probably influenced by this movie, and that would be like Sin City or 300, movies that kind of take the comic book route and do a panel by panel replication of a comic book. And that's kind of what this movie was trying to go for, I think, was use those 4 colors that comic books and comic strips used. Back in the day, they only had so many colors to work with, and so everything was real bright and single colored, not very much gradient. And for sure, I feel like that's what they were going for. And it's not a movie, but I've been going through the 1960s Batman TV show, and once again, that reminded me of Batman. Just the costumes, which we'll talk about in a second, but and the colors for sure.
Something I want to bring up here, just to be clear for everyone listening. Batman and Dick Tracy were both in production at the same time. Batman came out first, I think, in '89, and this came out in '90. However, in terms of production, Dick Tracy wrapped a month before Batman did. So these movies were made at the same time. And so this isn't a case of Dick Tracy said, we're going to copy Batman. We're going to do what they're doing because they're a success. This is legit. This is a coincidence that these movies are so similar, with the exception of Danny Elfman being the composer, which is really pretty crazy because both of those movies are real visionary and really kind of changed the game in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But only one made it to where it became like this big franchise.
That's true.
And for reasons that we just described, like it's Batman.
And now on that note too, this movie has been they've been talking about sequel to Dick Tracy for years. And I don't want to get into too many details here while we're talking about art and direction, but there's a rights battle there. There was, at least, between the studio that owned it. I want to say it was Walt Disney Films. Is that right? I know in the credits that's not what it says, but I read something. It doesn't matter. Whoever owned the rights had them, and then Warren Beatty got them, and there was a big dispute over who had the rights to the movie, and as a result, that's why we haven't seen anything else with Dick Tracy. So it's possible that this could have been a franchise, and it just got tied up in legal battles.
Yeah. Well, like, even the movie, the 1990 movie, like I think it took a decade for them to find a director and a way to make this movie. Like Steven Spielberg was rumored to be attached at some point, and uh, Jonathan Landis, and all these directors, and finally Warren Beatty got the rights to it, and he ended up going with it. But it's just it could also be something like that, where even if they do have the rights, it just takes a long time to hash out getting the right people to and the right script to make a thing.
Yeah. But anyway, we're going off on tangent here. Back to art direction. So me personally, with the use of the bold colors, I liked it, but I think it was a little overdone. Like literally every shot has something like that, and there were some parts of the film where I was just like, okay, I'm not digging this. But I thought it was cool. I respect them for doing it, and I would love to see more stuff like it, even though it wasn't my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
How did you feel specifically about the bold color usage?
I thought it was great. It was one of the most striking parts of the movie, and it kept me interested and engaged in the movie, because a lot of the rest of the movie is not great. So all I can really rely on is the color scheme, the camera work, and the makeup, and the score.
So moving forward then, from the bold color usage, I want to talk about the backdrops, because we'd be doing a criminal disservice if we didn't specifically talk about these backdrops.
Yeah.
Man,
we're flip-flopped on this.
These backdrops are some of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like, they're hand-painted backdrops all over the place. They look gorgeous. Some of them are animated. It really makes you feel like you're in this other world, and combined with the color thing, even though that wasn't my favorite, I thought it did an amazing job of creating this kind of fantasy comic world that the movie was taking place in. There are scenes, most notably I can think of one of the early scenes where Dick Tracy finds Kid, tracks him back home, and finds that this guy that he's been living with won't let him eat because all he was able to steal was a guy's pocket watch. And Dick Tracy shows up and just beats the tar out of the guy. And you see the shack rocking back and forth. And it's set in the center of painted backdrops, like surrounding it in like a 3D way. And it looked so cool. It looked something just like straight out of a comic book to me. Like, just, it was kind of cartoony and silly, but it looked awesome. And that continues throughout this entire film. Hands down, my favorite part of this movie are all of these awesome backdrops. Oh man, I loved it. I wish we'd see more of it.
Yeah, I really liked them. I liked the way they were made, and I thought they were amazingly done. They looked beautiful, but they were clearly fake.
Well, they were supposed to be clearly fake, though.
Were they?
Yeah, that was the point. They're supposed to look painted and drawn because you're in a comic book.
I see. I guess I didn't get that part of it. Like, I was expecting... to me, it looked outdated because it looked so fake. And I was comparing every single moment of this movie to Batman. And Batman used painted backdrops, but it didn't look as fake. And so I was like, oh, this isn't as good as Batman. So.
No, they were totally doing that on purpose. Like the fireworks at the end, for example. They're like animated dots on a painted backdrop. And it's entirely on purpose, I think, because it makes you feel like you're in a comic book.
Sure. That's probably true.
I don't know. That was hands down, that was my favorite part of this film. Or all those amazing backdrops.
They were really well done.
If you're watching the video, I've actually got a few of them down on the little image looper. You can see some of them there.
All right. Camera work.
So, okay. Camera work is interesting. And this is a good segue. Because we're moving from the backdrops to the camera work. Now, John, do you know what using backdrops means for the camera?
I'm not sure what you're looking for, but
It means you can't move the camera because you have to keep the entire painting in frame. You can maybe move like centimeters or inches, but you can't really move. That means that this movie is
Unless you move the
almost it is almost entirely still shots. The camera hardly ever moves in this movie. It's all set shots with the characters moving, but the camera's just anchored in place.
that's true. There wasn't any shaky cam or any of that stuff.
No
in
pans. Nothing. There were zooms, and whatever an unzoom is. What do you call it? An unzoom? I guess
out.
just a zooms. But no pans. No movement of the camera. All of the action is the people on the camera or the objects on the camera.
Yeah. Now this is where I can get behind it being like a comic book. Like it's still camera
Absolutely.
in order to replicate a comic book panel.
Yes.
And that I got. I just didn't. For some reason, I didn't connect the dots with the backdrops. But
well, you may
yeah.
be right. It could be that the still camera was for that effect also, because not every single scene has a painted backdrop on it. Just some of the big ones that are zoomed out. But I think that's cool. Yeah. To be honest, I didn't even think about the fact that it was framing like comic book panels, but it really is, and that makes me even more like impressed by this.
It's really good. And yeah, I can just think of several scenes where the camera, like, there's a shot where it's a silly moment, but Dick Tracy literally punches 4 guys out at the same time, and the camera's behind them, and he punches them out, and they fall off the viewable area, and he's just standing there, all heroic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great moment. The moment you were talking about on the bridge that's with the red light, that was a great shot. It was like the camera was down below the bridge, shooting up at them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great camera shots and angles. Trying to think of some others.
I think cinematography was really good too. Telling a story and not being able to move the camera, it's just something you don't see a lot of anymore, And I thought they did a great job with it in terms of, setting up scenes and the artisticness and all of that.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. The camera nowadays is a lot more dynamic. It's kind of trying to track the person or become a part of the movie, whereas this is just a camera on a tripod, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's move on to visual effects, which I think is another section that this movie excels in.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the CG, the makeup, the costumes?
So, in terms of CG, as far as I can tell, there's really not any.
No,
Everything is practical effects.
Yeah.
Which is, that's pretty cool to see. You don't see that anymore either. So that was cool. The effects were pretty good, I thought. The costumes, they were mob costumes, so they were fairly straightforward. You got lots of suits and trench coats and flapper dresses and things like that. But where this really shines is the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best makeup I've ever seen. Honestly, it's grotesque. Like these mobsters and some of the regular guys, they just look weird. But they do it well, in my opinion. In particular, Flat Top. Flat Top looked incredible to me. Absolutely incredible. There were lots that did, but he took the cake for me.
For sure. Yeah, when you can take a person like as well known as Dustin Hoffman and put him in makeup and you're not really sure if that's him, like and they did that with several A-list actors, like no idea who those people were.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you see who they were, then you're like, oh. But I mean, it was phenomenal how they were able to make those people look so drastically different, to the point where they're unrecognizable. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, like,
And I always liked. Good.
I was just gonna say, like, it's some of the best makeup I've ever seen. Period.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I really liked how. So the theme I believe is like the bad guys, not all of them, but if you're a bad guy, you're disfigured in some way.
Generally, yeah.
Generally.
I think 88 Keys was an exception.
Well, he was deceptive. He was. Oh, you're saying he didn't have a.
He didn't have
disfigurement?
He looked normal. Yeah.
That's right. That's true. Yeah, there are a few exceptions to that. I think it was mainly the more notable gang members. Like 88 Keys, he wasn't a gang member from the beginning. He was just a piano player.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of got in with Breathless and Big Boy.
You mean No Face?
Right.
Which, by the way,
ooh,
head slap
spoiled it.
moment, absolute head slap moment. Now it's obvious to me why No Face chose 88 Keys to be her liaison to Big Boy. Because that's the guy she knew the best. She was with the piano player all the time. I literally, that just now clicked with me. But I do want to note also, this movie did win 3 Oscars, one of which was Best Makeup. So it did win the Oscar in 1990 for Best Makeup. As well as it should have.
So.
Yeah.
There's a review. I briefly perused a review of someone else wrote, and they were like, someone that I respect, and they were like, I've never seen makeup that good to this day. Like,
yeah.
And that's saying something.
Yeah.
With all the advances we've had and everything. So.
Now, there's a question for you. If Dick Tracy was made today, would that all be CG, or would you think they'd go the makeup route?
I don't know, because
I think it'd be hard. CG would be hard to do at that level, because faces, I think, in particular, are really hard for CG. So it might have been makeup.
Yeah, and they still use makeup quite frequently today. It would be mainly for a lot of body work or something like that. Yeah. Although the most recent Cats adaptation,
that was CG.
They use CG everywhere, including their face. Yeah. So, although I don't know that turned out very well, but.
So just to summarize and go back a little bit, art direction so far and visual effects, creme de la creme. Right, this movie's top marks for both of those. Yeah. Plot and acting, kind of average for those.
Yeah,
but art and visual, freaking, it's great.
Yeah, worth watching this movie for.
Absolutely.
Okay, score. I think this is another high point, even though it's a clone of Batman. This is Danny Elfman doing his Danny Elfman thing. Yeah,
I mean, if you like the Batman soundtrack, you're going to like this soundtrack. I don't want to go so far as to say it's a clone, but man, it's so similar. It's really close. Similar. Like, I wasn't joking earlier. I could play you a Batman song and I could play you a Dick Tracy song, and you probably wouldn't be able to know which is which. In fact, John, you know what I'm going to ask you to do?
I'll try to remember, yeah.
All right, so here is clip number 1. Okay, you got that in your head? Now, here comes clip number 2. All right, now, viewers, tell us which clip you think was Batman and which clip you think was Dick Tracy. I will put the answer in Twitter. We'll do it like 2 or 3 days after this podcast goes live in podcast form.
Yep. Or email us. CIECINEMAMEN podcast.
It might need a little work, but I'm digging it. I'm digging
it. Anyway, that was dumb.
It's all good. Yeah, it's all good. Dumb is what we do. But hey, I agree with you. The soundtrack is good.
It is extremely similar to Batman, but I like the Batman soundtrack. I like this one.
Yeah. I don't fault him for, like, if he even thought for a moment, like, hey, I can kind of recycle this or reuse this. That's fine, because he does great work. I mean, I have no problem with it, and it worked great in both movies. Like, it's the sound that he came up with suits the crime-ridden city, dark, littered with dirt, kind of those that it just works. So, but also, Madonna had some good singing parts
That's true.
in this that we should probably mention.
I think
She had a few
2 songs, or was it 3?
2 or 3 songs. They were all Stephen Sondheim written music. And one of them, I think, won something.
It won Best Original Song. They won an Oscar
There we
for
go.
Original Song.
Yeah. And, yeah, they were great. And Madonna is a talented artist. I mean...
And she,
sure.
here's a fun fact for you. She performed that song at that Oscar show. And
Nice.
I'm certain you can find that clip on YouTube if you look for it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked it up, but I'm certain it's out there somewhere.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to talk about before we get to star ratings?
Oh, let's see. Yes.
Okay.
I want to talk about Dick Tracy's obsession with chili.
I'm glad you remembered this. Yeah.
Every time
So-
Dick Tracy eats in this movie, which is a lot of times, he eats chili. Now, John Murphy over here, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but he is our resident expert on Dick Tracy lore and canon. And so he's going to let us all know why Dick Tracy only eats chili.
I'll tell you, Matt. I have no idea. So that I noticed this. It's probably very noticeable because the very first time he's eating chili, he's about to interrogate Mumbles, I think. And there's a can of chili, and it just says chili, and it's a red can with white letters.
He's eating it right out of the can.
He's got his spoon in it. He's eating it, and you're like, well, that's weird, but surely
No,
they won't.
Why would you eat
This is
chili
it.
right before an interrogation?
This is it. But no, he then goes several times. He's at the restaurant, diner, talking to Tess. He's eating chili.
And they don't mention it specifically, but if you look, when he pulls up his spoon, it's always chili. Every time he eats, it's chili.
So I was like, surely there's a reason why they decided to incorporate chili so much into this movie. And I looked. I mean, I did as good a work as I know how to do searching the internet, and there was no mention of why he likes chili. And maybe the comic strip, it's a nod to the comic strip, and he liked Dick Tracy and the comic strip like chili. Maybe the guy that created him liked chili, and so it was a homage to the guy that created Dick Tracy. I have no clue.
If you're listening to this and you know the answer to this question, please let us know. I looked as well. We have no idea. But it's such an odd fact, and it's such like that's too weird to not be there for a reason.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows that reason, let us know. I might actually have to go back and watch this with the director's commentary on, just to see if I can find. Maybe they mention it there.
Maybe.
I really want to know.
Yeah.
If I find out, I'll put it on Twitter so y'all can know too. But I'm really that's driving me crazy. Why? Always
We may have to get
chili.
a hold of Warren Beatty. We may have to ask him. Okay.
I guess that's
Is
about
that-
it for me. The only other things I have are silly, like
like, when the guy plants the bug and he's in the attic of the criminal hideout, he's up there for like weeks. Does he just live in that attic? Like, how does he get food? Because the way, like, at first I thought they just planted a bug and that guy was at the police station or something listening. But no, he was literally in their attic. And, he gets caught because he spills a cup of coffee and it leaks. And where did he get the coffee from? Has he literally been hiding in their attic for weeks? How does he go home?
I don't know. I assumed he kind of rotated.
Like, how does he sneak in there all the time? How does he sneak out? Like, they had to do a raid just to get him in there. Like, maybe he brought a bunch of food with him in a coffee machine. I don't know.
His name was Bug Bailey, by the way.
It's a great name. He also looked a lot like John C. Reilly to me.
Speaking of that, I thought Flat Top was John C. Reilly until I read the cast list. It's not John C. Reilly.
Yeah, no, he's not in this movie. He'd be a good fit for it though if they ever do it.
Oh yeah, he would have been. Okay, star ratings. Matt Hurdle.
Man, this is one
Overall
of those
thoughts.
This is one of the overall thoughts, not star ratings.
And both.
Overall thoughts and then star ratings. Okay,
Yep.
So if it's not abundantly clear, I didn't like the acting or the plot. I've established on previous episodes of this podcast that I'm really susceptible to plot. If the plot's good and everything else is bad, I'll tend to like the movie anyway. If the plot's bad and everything else is good, I'll tend to not really like the movie that much. This is not much of an exception here. I really didn't like the movie that much. I'm not going to say I didn't like it because it was okay, but I didn't like it.
No, sir. I don't like it.
It's fun to watch, but it's fun to watch because of the visuals. It's not fun to watch because of the plot or the action, of which there's hardly any, honestly, other than these two weird musical montages. That said, the visual effects and the art direction on this are great. We're not talking Carrie or The Shining great. We're not Kubrick levels here, but they're still great. They're definitely on par with Batman. And I gave him high praise in Batman. So that definitely keeps it from being a low score. But I didn't like it either, so I got to keep it somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to come in with this at a 6. I would give it a 5, but no kidding. The art direction and the cinematography and the effects and everything were so good that I couldn't give it a 5. So I'm going to come in with a 6.
Okay. So
Which I got to say, it was better than I thought it would be. It really was.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad movie. I watched this movie as a kid, quite a bit. Enough that I dreamed and pretended that I wanted one of those watch communicators.
I think every kid did. Every kid wanted that watch.
I had one of those Seiko pad watches with the number pad on them.
You had a calculator watch?
Yeah, like Casio.
Oh, you nerd.
Anyway, I would pretend that was a communicator watch, and I'd press the side and I'd talk into it. So this movie definitely has nostalgia for me. It's a movie that I grew up watching, and that communicator, like, we now have those, by the way.
Yeah.
We have Apple Watches and smartwatches that allow you to basically talk to one another via
you can
your
straight
watch.
make phone calls with them. They're amazing.
Yeah. So very ahead of its time with regard to that. This movie is basically Batman. I think Batman was better produced, but Dick Tracy has more interesting characters, and it's a lot more unique with regards to the color palette and the camera work that it was doing.
There's a lot of vision in this movie. You cannot deny that.
Yes. The colors just pop, and I really like that about it. I like the idea of the bad guys having weird names, weird nicknames, and weird faces. The makeup is on top notch. Um, the movie is pretty cut and dry as far as who is good and who is bad. The only really ambiguous character is Breathless. Um, I thought the acting was better than Matt thought it was. I think Al Pacino definitely steals the show. Warren Beatty, again, he very little emotion.
He did fine.
Um,
There just wasn't a lot of acting.
Yeah, I found him entertaining. But yeah, he just didn't have. He wasn't going for that. Just like, and we kind of knocked Waterworld for Kevin Costner's performance, but that's what he was trying to do, and that's what Warren Beatty was trying to do. Like, I don't think he was misrepresenting his character. Like, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do. Madonna wasn't bad. She's a very decent actor, and then just a slew of A-listers all throughout this movie, but you wouldn't know it because they're all covered in makeup. The score is awesome. Very Batman-like.
Mm-hmm.
And then the plot is just, it's real campy. There's not a lot to the plot. A lot of montages, which I'm not against a lot of montages. I like best of the best, after all. But it just, we didn't get a lot in between those montages. That like there was no connection to the characters, no, nothing like that. The timeline in the plot, like I didn't even mention this, but one moment Dick Tracy's like, "We need to take down Big Boy, make it happen," and the very next scene, he's raiding the Club Ritz and trying to take down Big Boy. It's like we missed something in between there. So overall, I thought this was a decent movie. It feels like a clone of Batman just because of when it was made and the feelings it evokes. But it has some interesting ideas, and visually, it's pretty great. So I'm going to give it 7 out of 10.
There you have it. A 6 and a 7.
6 and a 7. Set in stone, never to change. All right, time for some Spice Awards. We have 4 categories. 4 categories. 4 categories. We have 4 categories: Best Actor, Most Underrated Performance, Favorite Scene, and Favorite Disfigured Gangster.
That's a lot of categories. I don't know why I think that's so funny. Categories.
That could be a running gag. Categories. Okay, man. Best Actor. What would you
Okay,
pick?
so I mentioned I didn't want to mention. That's weird to say. I mentioned that I didn't want to mention who I felt was the standout actor in this movie because I gave them this award. To me, this was an easy choice, and I think it might surprise you. Are you ready for this?
I guess.
To me, the best actor in this movie was Glenn Headley, who played Tess Trueheart. I felt like her performance was earnest and solid and great from start to finish. She was hands down to me. I say that every podcast. I'm gonna try to go a podcast without saying hands down. But
Hands up.
she was hands down the best actor or actress, whatever the term is, in this movie to me. I thought her performance was just awesome. I thought she did amazing.
Okay.
And you know,
I thought.
going up against the names in this movie, like, freaking, you know, I want to see her in more stuff. I don't think she's done a ton of work, at least not compared to some of the other names in this cast. But man, she nailed this movie.
Yeah. she's she's recognizable to me. Like I know I've seen her in other things. But yeah, I think she did a decent job. She was definitely good at. She just wasn't. She wasn't the damsel in distress. Like she wasn't the just feminine kind of character. She had some rough edges. She was tough as nails. She could, and she had to be because she was Dick Tracy's love interest. So I guess she had to be tough because she was dating a cop. But yeah, that was a good pick.
She's done a lot of TV, which is probably why I don't know a bunch of stuff she's been in. I don't watch a whole lot of TV. She was in Lonesome Dove in 1989.
Yeah.
She was in Mr. Holland's Opus. She was in an episode of Frasier. She did some ER episodes. She did some voice work and some cartoons. She was in Monk for a while. Yeah, most recently it looks like she was in Future Man. And her last movie was something called Making Babies in 2018. So,
I do remember her in Mr. Holland's Opus. Mm-hmm. I do remember her in that. I picked Al Pacino as Big Boy Caprice. I don't know. I guess I just gravitate towards the insane characters because I find them interesting and entertaining. And so he was crazy energetic. He was loud. He was mean. He was transformative visually. Like, it doesn't look like Al Pacino. I mean, a little bit, I guess, but he's just super entertaining. And he turns that villain into one of the best things about the movie, acting wise. So that was my pick.
Good old Pacino. You gotta love him. It just didn't work for me in this movie, but to each their own.
Yeah. All right. Best actor. Matt's pick was Glenn Headley. Headley. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
I think it's Headley.
As Tess Headley.
Headley
Lamar.
Headley.
As Tess Trueheart, and my pick was Al Pacino as Big Boy Caprice. Most underrated performance, Matt.
Another easy choice for me.
Okay.
It's got to be William Forsythe, who played Flat Top.
Oh yeah, I got. You kind of alluded to that.
He didn't have a lot of speaking roles, other than just kind of like or growls or grumbles. But between his face and that makeup that he wore, he was the only mobster in this movie that I found actually terrifying. He was scary, man. Like the way he would glare and sneer and just kind of look around with that big prosthetic head on, like, I mean, easily he was the scariest one. He was the meanest looking one. Every time he was on screen, I was looking at Flat Top.
Wow.
Every time. I've got to give it to him.
Okay. Yeah, I liked him a lot too. He wasn't a consideration for me necessarily, but I get where you're coming from. And yeah, he was terrifying. I went with Dustin Hoffman as Mumbles. There's something about the way he does his thing that makes me laugh and smile.
Watching him play that, you have to think he had a lot of fun doing that role.
Oh yeah.
And then he's like, "You want some water, Mumbles? A glass of nice cool water." He's like sweating it. Yeah, that's a good choice.
He sort of brought back his Rain Man
a little bit.
And he probably had 5 minutes of screen time, but he makes full use of it for sure.
You notice there's a lot of scenes where he's kind of creeping around in the background. Did you notice that? For a while, I thought he was going to turncoat on Caprice and like he was spying and getting information, but that's not how it turned out. But
yeah, that was a little confusing because after he had the interrogation with Dick Tracy, that's when he started sneaking around. So I thought he was a rat.
And like in particular, that scene where Caprice gathers all the mobsters and is like, "I'm taking over. I'm chairman of the board, and y'all are the board members. He's got a great ass." I'm sorry, I can't talk about Pacino and not say that line. You see Mumbles there, and he's kind of looking shifty, like he's kind of peeking in and seeing what's going on. And I thought that was like that's when they start kind of alluding to maybe Mumbles is up to something.
Yeah, but it went nowhere. I guess he's just the guy that's in the background that knows. He's kind of like, you know, how they always get the accountant, and the accountant has all the information, but they're not really involved. They're just cooking the books. Yeah, you kind of feel sorry for his character, but at the same time, I was laughing, just the way he kind of delivers his lines.
And I mean, you find out too that the mumbling he does is an act. Or at least he can turn it off when he wants to.
He can turn it off, yeah.
When he gets cornered, he comes clean and he starts talking normally to Dick Tracy.
Big Boy did it. All right. Matt's pick for most underrated performance was William Forsythe as Flat Top, and my pick was Dustin Hoffman as Mumbles. Favorite scene?
So, my first two were super easy. This one went the other direction. And maybe not for the reason you think. I had a hard time picking a favorite scene, period. Just because none of them were my favorite scene. You know, it wasn't that I had three that were like, oh, these are the best. Just none of them were my favorite scene. I considered a couple, and I basically just came up with one that I thought was a little bit better than the other ones, but for the most part, I was didn't have a favorite scene at all. For me, I guess if I have to pick, I'm going to go with the scene where the mobsters are meeting with Big Boy, and he's saying, you know, I'm chairman of the board. That was fun just because, you know, it was kind of tense. You've got Big Boy, and you see all of the other big names all gathered around the table, and they're all kind of having their huddle, and there's lots of color, and there's lots of makeup, and it was a fun scene to watch. You got Mumbles in the background creeping around. You've got Tess, and it was kind of confusing because Tess was like, Dick Tracy was following Breathless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somehow Dick Tracy wounds up, you know, at this meeting, climbing the outside of it. And he's, for some reason, shimmying on the roof. And they're like, Dick Tracy, you don't have a warrant. You can't do that. And what if you get caught? And he comes up to this window just as Flat Top starts peering out the window. And then this guy who decides he's not with Big Boy's car blows up and kills him. And then every gangster goes to the window. And they're like, oh, and Tracy's like inches away, like, oh, no. Just that whole scene, I enjoyed that. So, really hard choice, but that's the one I went for.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. And I hate to bring it up once again, but Batman 89, when the Joker has the meeting with the gang members, and the one guy is like, and then he makes him, or fries him with his little buzzer hand.
Same thing. It's just it's a car bomb with this one.
So crazy.
And yeah, they even do a little thing where they're like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. And then they kill him. They do that in both movies.
Glad you're dead. Yeah, I sort of had the same problem that you did. There's not just a memorable scene.
You know, I really liked the scene where Dick Tracy fights the kid's guy who's denying him food. I mentioned that earlier, and the scene's rocking, like the shack is rocking back and forth because Dick Tracy's pounding him into walls. I liked that scene a lot too. It was definitely between those two, but still, like you're saying, it's just wasn't a favorite scene.
Yeah. So I went with it's several scenes, I guess, but the sequence where Dick Tracy is trying to save Tess, and it kind of switches back and forth between Madonna singing her song and Dick Tracy trying to break in and save Tess. And it's a it's a funny moment because they're on top of a roof, him and one of his detectives, and they see Tess down there. And so Dick Tracy decides it's a good idea to jump through the window, crash through the window, a la Batman. So he does so. But then Big Boy Caprice carries Tess out of that room and locks Dick Tracy in, so he's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks, what is the best way to get out of here? And so he starts writing on a piece of paper mathematical equations.
Hey, how much do you weigh? About
he asks
190,
us to-
195. Okay, 210.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So he tries to figure out how big his detective partner weighs, and they make like a little seesaw. And the other detective jumps on top of it, shooting Dick Tracy out of the top other window, and he's out. But the other guy's stuck now. But they don't care about that, I guess. But anyway, that was an interesting scene, at least. I liked the way it kind of switched back and forth between the music and what he was doing.
Yeah.
And that one scene made me laugh, so that's all I could come up with. Okay. Favorite scene for Matt is when the gang members and Big Boy are having the meeting in the boardroom. For me, it was the sequence where Dick Tracy's trying to save Tess. Final category, favorite disfigured gangster.
Another easy one for me.
Okay.
Littleface. He was so absurd, but at the same time so visually interesting that I didn't even have to think about it. I instantly knew who it was.
Yeah.
He's only in the movie for 30 seconds, if that. But man, that was an amazing. That's probably why, because the makeup was so dang hard.
Yeah, he couldn't be rolling around through the movie like that. He was in my top list for sure. But I went with Prune Face. From a visual perspective, he has one of the more striking faces, and he basically just looked at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark when they start, or maybe Last Crusade, when he drinks from the wrong cup.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
Kind of mummified.
It was really good makeup.
And he was a prominent figure in the movie, so I liked it. Pretty good.
Good choice. John.
Hey, Matt.
I'm about to do something unprecedented in the history of the CinemaMen podcast.
We are a living entity. Go for it.
It's time for a surprise Spice Award. Oh, yeah. No prep. No prep. No notes. No nothing. Pull up your IMDb cast list because you're going to need it for this.
Uh-oh.
We need to be sponsored by IMDb, by the way. But, are you ready for this?
I'll work on that. Go ahead.
Favorite mobster name?
Oh, okay.
For me, while you're thinking about it, because I've got mine.
Okay.
It's 88 Keys.
That's a good one.
He wasn't my favorite mobster by any means, but that's such a cool name. I mean, come on, he's the piano player, and his name is 88 Keys because he's the piano player. It's just a cool name. It's a really cool name. So I got to give it to him for that. That was Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin.
Patinkin. Mandy Patinkin. That's what we're going
Like
with.
you're spitting into a spittoon.
Mandy Patinkin. Mandy, you had the best character name in the game in the movie. I was trying to make it rhyme there, but it didn't work out. I'm no rapper, John. My hip hop days are behind me. But
At least
for me,
you had it hip hop days.
For me, it's 88. 88 Keys. Coolest name.
Okay.
What about you? It's got to be Big Boy Caprice, right?
No.
Because he wears short
So-
pants all the time. Lives in Europe.
That's a good point. You really just put me on the spot. Like
I
you
know.
just picked out.
I know. I did it on purpose.
I like Lips Manless.
Lips. Poor Lips. Had the worst fate in the movie.
Yeah. Horrible face.
Yeah.
Face only a mother would love, but and when he would eat oysters, that was really bad.
Oh yeah, it was awful.
But it's a good name, like a little alliteration there. Lips Manless.
Played by Paul Sorvino, by the way.
Yeah. A legendary gangster.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sorry to spring that on you like that, but that was the point.
That's all right.
That's why I did
We
the
handled it.
surprise category. I wanted to see how you performed under pressure.
Favorite gang member name? Matt's pick was 88 Keys, who was played by Mandy Patinkin.
Thank you.
And my pick was Lips Manless, who was played by Paul Sorvino. Hey, Matt.
Hold on.
Oh.
John.
Yes.
We didn't have a favorite quote category this time.
No, we didn't.
And you know what you're doing?
What?
You're depriving the people of your impeccable imitation skills.
Oh, you want me to do a quote?
You don't have to do a quote. Just give me some kind of impression. Give me a Pacino.
Well, let me find something. I can't just make up stuff like you can.
Okay.
I gotta find something I can read from. I'm like Ron Burgundy. I have to read from a teleprompter.
I've done Pacino a few times already, but I want to hear a Murphy Pacino. We need to do a Nick Cage one so we can hear your Nick Cage because it's good. You have a
I
good
didn't
Nick
even know I
Cage.
was doing Nick Cage. That's the only problem. Okay, quotes. Let's see. Okay. I don't even know.
It's all right. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. We can cut all that
Oh.
if we need to.
I'll give it the old college try for the people watching. All right. All right. That's enough. I want them dead. Both of them. I want no-face character dead. I want Tracy dead. What's the matter? You bums forgot how to kill people. Don't you mean anything to it? Have you no sense of pride in what you do? No sense of duty? No sense of destiny? I'm looking for generals. What do I got? Foot soldiers. I want Dick Tracy dead.
Thank you. Once again, you're spot on with your Mumbles impression. Well done, sir, and thank you for being a good sport.
Yes. Hey, Matt.
Hey, John.
Did you know? Danny Elfman was hired to compose the film score because Warren Beatty was impressed with his work on Batman. On working with Beatty, Elfman said that Warren was insane.
Here's one for you. Earlier, when this movie was kind of in pre-production and they were setting everything up, there was a different director looked at for this film. That was none other than Tim Burton.
Hmm.
So we could have made this even more of a Batman movie. However, Tim Burton, he turned it down because he was already at that point working on Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, good one. This is the highest grossing Warren Beatty film ever. It grossed $162 million at the box office on a $46 million budget.
No surprise with how much they advertised this movie. We haven't really mentioned that, but John and I were both kids, I think, when this was in the theaters, and you couldn't throw a rock without seeing something with Dick Tracy on it. It was everywhere. Here's a fun one. The producers of this film really wanted to get, at this point, former president Ronald Reagan to play Pruneface. However, Warren Beatty said no. How crazy would that have been if Ronald Reagan was Pruneface? That would have been it would have been amazing. I don't think he did any acting after his presidential terms.
Oh no, no, he did not.
How that would have been so cool if he returned just for this movie. That'd have been awesome.
Mm-hmm. Al Pacino has stated in interviews that he enjoyed working on the movie, saying that Warren Beatty made a wonderful artistic film, even though now it's like it doesn't even exist, alluding to the notion that it is a movie that is barely talked about after all these years, which is true.
So we mentioned Catherine O'Hara's in this movie. She has her role is more of a cameo than anything else. She's just kind of a background character. I wasn't able to spot her, but if you have a sharper eye than me, maybe you can. But related to that, originally Macaulay Culkin was considered heavily to play the kid in this movie. He wound up turning the role down, so they actually offered it to him, but he said no, thank you. The reason he decided not to do this movie was because he was agreeing to do another movie at that time.
Batman.
A movie. No, it wasn't Batman. It wasn't Batman. Instead of Harvey, though, there was a Harry. That was Home Alone. So a good choice for Mr. Culkin in that regard.
Yeah. Dustin Hoffman wore a bald cap and wig.
Catagurgle. Dustin Hoffman wins the Catagurgle. I'm sorry.
That's a Catagurgle. Dustin Hoffman wore a bald cap and wig, rubber eyelids, rubber lips, and a rubber chin to play Mumbles. When he was in the makeup chair having his makeup applied, he used that time to practice his lines for his role as Shylock in the London and Broadway productions of The Merchant of Venice.
Interesting.
John Caglione Jr., the makeup artist, commented about Hoffman in an interview to Entertainment Weekly. "We had a real drama class. He was riotous."
So I've had some confusion. I think I even mentioned it earlier in this podcast, but I felt like this was released by Walt Disney Pictures. It wasn't, but originally it was set to be released by them. In the teaser trailer, if you watch the teaser trailer, they have the logo for Walt Disney Pictures in that teaser trailer, and maybe that's where I got this from. I honestly don't know, but ultimately it went on to Touchstone Pictures, but Disney owned Touchstone Pictures, so in a way it was still Disney, but they didn't want to market it under the Disney name because of some fairly obvious adult content, not the least of which were Madonna's bare breasts.
Yeah. To be fair, covered by a very sheer dress.
Yeah, but you could see him. Like there was no question. It left absolutely nothing to the imagination.
That's right. Pretty self-evident, but the gangster's boardroom scene that was Matt's favorite scene features an on-screen reunion between Al Pacino and James Caan, who played the Corleone brothers in The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2.
Maybe my subconscious was remembering that and bringing that scene up for me. Here's an interesting one. Gilbert Gottfried. That's a name you know and love, I'm sure.
Affleck.
He wrote an autobiography, and in that he mentioned that he was nearly cast in the role of Mumbles because of his voice. They thought it would be interesting to have him in his unique voice in that role. He said that it was crazy to him that he and Dustin Hoffman were being considered for the same role, and yeah, that would be interesting, I thought.
Yeah. Created in 1931, Big Boy Caprice was based on real-life mobster Al Capone. Interestingly, Big Boy's actor played the titular role in Scarface, which was a remake of Scarface, the 1932 version, a movie loosely based on Capone's life and using the gangster's nickname. That was a mouthful.
One of the biggest names in this movie, maybe not in terms of acting prowess, but in terms of sheer fame, is Madonna. Huge name. Huge name. She was like super famous at this point. Maybe a little past her prime in terms of her popularity, but still super popular at this point in time. She made, for her acting role in this film, which made millions and millions of dollars, she was paid $35,000.
Didn't she get points though? Also,
Points?
yeah.
I don't know what you mean by points.
So you can either take a paycheck or you can
Oh,
get
I
points,
see.
which are
Like
you get a percentage of the revenue. Yeah.
That I don't know. The fact that I am reading is just that she was paid $35,000. Now I do know that at the time this movie was being made, she was dating Warren Beatty. They were an item at this point in time, and so the low salary could be accounted for that way. This could have been a favor for her man, but I don't know. I don't know about the points thing.
Yeah. Guess who was considered to play Breathless Mahoney? Other than Madonna.
Gilda Radner.
I think she was dead at that point.
Oh, sorry.
Kim Basinger.
Oh, are you serious? Who played Vicky Vale in Batman? Oh my gosh, it just gets worse and worse.
But also Michelle Pfeiffer, who played Catwoman in Batman Returns, and Sharon Stone.
Also, Jack Nicholson was considered for Big Boy Caprice. No, I'm just kidding. That is not true.
However, Matt, you jest, but apparently Robert De Niro and Jack Nicholson were offered the role of Dick Tracy.
Of course they were. So we didn't mention this in the podcast, but there's also some kind of similarities between this movie and a Disney movie called Who Framed Roger Rabbit. There's some very distinct kind of visual style connections that seems to kind of link the two movies. They're not actually connected, but one kind of what's the word I'm thinking of? Kind of makes you think of the other one, I guess. Right? Inspires the other one. That's not right, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
An interesting fact to go along with that is that when this movie premiered, there was a short film that played in front of it in the movie theater, and that was Roller Coaster Rabbit.
Is that the short that they played in the movie where he's in the kitchen with Baby Herman, or is that a different thing?
I think it's different, but it was a Roger Rabbit short. It's one where Baby Herman kind of wanders around through an amusement park, and Roger Rabbit's trying to keep him from getting hurt.
That's a movie we're going to have to review.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a good one. Just forgive me if I skip past the shoe scene.
Aww. Oh, I understand why.
Traumatic.
I understand why.
My poor sister. I watched that with my little sister who was 2 years younger than me. We saw it in the theater. She broke down crying for 2 hours after the movie was over. Because of that shoe.
I remember being traumatized by that. Dustin Hoffman and Charlie Korsmo both appeared in Hook. Charlie Korsmo played the kid. Dustin Hoffman played Mumbles in this movie.
So, this movie has another kind of weird connection. And that is to the movie Misery, which came out in 1990.
Okay.
Warren Beatty seriously considered being in that movie. And he also seriously considered directing that movie, although he would wind up doing neither. That fact aside, Misery stars James Caan and Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates was in this movie, but it was kind of a cameo role. But they were still both in this movie.
So we mentioned this movie was based on a comic strip, and that comic strip was created by, I think his name was Charlie Gould, and it was first published in the Chicago Tribune in October of 1931. The original name for Dick Tracy was going to be Plain Clothes Tracy, but the publisher decided to change the name, or suggested that the name get changed to Dick Tracy.
It's a good change. A good change. So we mentioned the colors, the use of bold colors in this movie. The reason for that, obviously, as we kind of established already, was to put you kind of in the comic book mindset. However, those colors, there's 6 of them that appear throughout the film, these bold, bright colors. And those colors are red, blue, yellow, green, orange, purple, black, and white. And the reason they use those colors specifically is because those are the 6 colors that the strip was originally printed in when it would run in the Sunday papers and be in color or in the comic books.
Really cool. Any more?
I think that's probably enough. There's a lot. This movie has a lot of stuff. We could probably go for a while, but there's no reason to keep going.
Very well. That is going to be our episode for tonight. Join us in 2 weeks when we will review the 1986 action film Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise. We'd love it if you'd subscribe to the CinemaMen podcast and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Head on over to cinemamenpodcast.com. Check out new and old episodes. We always love to hear from listeners, so if you have a suggestion or just want to give us your take on a movie, feel free to email us at feedback@CinemaMen podcast.com.
Or
check us out on Twitter.
Much
Check
better.
us out on Twitter at twitter.com/cinemamenpod. Thanks for listening. What was the banana phone?
I was just trying to make you laugh.
Oh, well,
All right.
done.
So now that that's done, if you're watching and you want to stick around, we're going to do a CinemaMini. But first we have to shut down this properly.
Make sure you save.
Let me stop down my recording. Let me export my audio.
Saved. Bum, 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 bum.
So what are we doing? First theater experience?
Yes.
Alright, that ought to be a short one, I suspect.
We'll see. Do. Okay. Are you changing anything?
Yeah, I'm going to change the, take off the Dick Tracy stuff.
Okay.
So you go away, and you go away, and you go away. Boop. Ta-da! Just like that.
Easy.
It's just taking a while to export.
Bum 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 bum. Podcast. See, gets in your head. The video's like 20 seconds, 30 seconds behind.
Yeah.
But I just saw you go. Ta-da!
Alright, my export is done. Let me go over here and get everything set up like it needs to be. Alright, I am uploading my audio.
Do it. Do it, Lars.
Saved. New. Almost there. Almost there. Alright, it's up. I'm hitting record. La 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 la. Okay. I am recording again. And I guess I'm ready whenever you are. Do we need to sync again?
Uh-huh.
Alright. On your count.
1, 2, 3.
Boom!
Catagurgles.
Catagurgles. You got me with the catagurgles, man. Alright. Are you ready, sir?
Ready.
Alright. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third installment of our raw, of our unedited, of our very little prepared for CinemaMen. John, strike up the band. You're supposed to be like. I
forgot.
I'll just do the band for us
forgot.
this time. That's right.
I forgot I wasn't editing. It's like I'll just add a little sound clip here.
Oh, as soon as I say raw, let's play a sound clip. Oh, we're good. We're absolutely good. That's the point of the CinemaMen. We keep it light. We keep it raw. We keep it unedited. So you're hearing the conversation exactly as it happens, unlike with our actual podcast, which you probably couldn't tell it was edited anyway because it's terrible. Let's be honest, folks. But, we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're listening. So thanks so much for tuning in. Today,
myself, Matt Hurdle, and my co-host,
Hello,
who's not taking cues, John Murphy,
John Murphy. Hello.
are here to talk about some of our first experiences seeing theater movies. Or to put it a little bit more understandably, seeing movies in the theater.
Yes. Specifically, the first movie we saw in the theaters, correct?
Yeah. But if you have any other sweet anecdotes to bestow upon myself and our listening/viewing audience, please feel free to share.
Indeed.
Let me adjust my bow tie after saying that.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're just going to talk about kind of our memories of the theater, our earliest memories. And for context, John, I hope you don't have a problem with this, but I think it's relevant that we reveal our age.
Holy crap.
I know.
Well, you're older than me, so if you're okay with it, then I'm okay with it.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I will say the year I was born.
Okay.
And you can extrapolate from that if you want to do the math. Because I'm willing to bet most people aren't and are just going to kind of guess.
Okay.
I was born in 1980.
Good Lord.
Now get off my lawn.
I was born in 1988.
Oh my gosh, you young
82.
Sweet summer child. Oh, okay.
Just
I was
kidding.
like,
1982.
I was like, surely that's not right, is it? I've known you a long time. I didn't think there was an 8-year difference between us. I'm so glad you corrected
1982.
that. All right, so that's just for context for everyone listening. So when we're talking about movies, you'll know kind of, ages and relevant things like that. Mm-hmm. So that said, John Murphy,
yes.
would you please regale us with your soon-to-be award-winning story of your first memory of a movie theater?
Picture this.
I'm going to close my eyes if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You live in a home in a rural area.
So far, this is very easy for me.
In the South.
It's still easy.
Of the United States of America.
I'm with you.
Your parents are what one would call frugal or uninteresting.
Ouch.
And
I hope you're not listening, Mr. or Mrs. Murphy.
They aren't ones to take trips or do things. So I didn't have a lot of exposure to movie theaters. Let's say that. So my first movie, I was probably 8 or 9, I think.
Okay.
More importantly, I remember what I saw and where I saw it. And in our town, we had a drive-in theater. And
I like it already.
I don't know why. Maybe because my parents liked. My dad loves westerns. My mom is a Kevin Costner fan, so when they heard that Dances with Wolves was coming out, maybe they just had to see it. I'm not sure, but we did go, and I got to go with them. And I remember watching that movie on the big screen at the drive-in theater, with the complete unintelligible audio that you put on the side of your car. There was a
The
tray.
speakers.
I think they.
Yeah, you would roll your window up or put it on. Yeah, fix it.
Mm-hmm. They served popcorn, so they had a tray where you could order popcorn and set your drinks and your popcorn and stuff. I vividly remember that, and I still don't know. I never asked my parents why they took me to that or why they went to that, because literally that is the only movie I've ever seen in a theater with my parents or at a drive-in. So they just didn't go. And we lived in the country on a dirt road, and so it took probably 20 minutes to go into town. We were not financially rich or anything, so going to the movies was not a thing that we necessarily did. So that's my first memory of going to the movies, and I cherish it because it was unique and interesting and something that I didn't ever get to do. And I think about that with my kids. I'm like, I try to take them to the movies whenever I can. So maybe I'm not making it as special for them, but I don't care. I like I like going to the movies, and I'm sure they like going as well. But anyway,
That's awesome.
that's my first story. I have another story, but I'll let you go.
That's that's a really good movie for your first movie. Dances with
Yeah,
Wolves.
it
That was a big film.
Mhm.
Do you
And
remember?
I've seen it.
Like, were you really into the movie? Because you were kind of young for it.
Yeah, I remember particular parts. Of course, I've seen the movie several times since then, so I have a pretty good knowledge of it now. But I remember I was 9, so I remember the parts with the horses. I vividly remember the part. It's the guy, John Dunbar, is going. He's trying to do something. He's a military officer in the Confederate Army or the Union Army, whichever one. And the guy he talks to is this big guy, and he says something about, blah blah blah, and I seem to have pissed my pants. And he stands up, and he actually had peed his pants. Then John Dunbar leaves that office, and then the guy shoots himself in the head. So
Pretty intense for, what were you, 8, you said?
8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah. Of course,
Anyway.
movies were different back then,
Yeah, and they didn't show it. They just showed the aftermath, and they showed that you could hear the gunshot. So it was kind of alluded to that he did that. But
I gotcha. That's pretty cool, man. And it was a drive-in at that, which is even cooler. Bonus points
Yeah,
for the
they
drive-in.
don't- not many of those around anymore. But
It's always
I really
a
like
treat.
drive-ins.
There's a few, but there's not many.
What
For
about you?
mine, so I grew up in similar circumstances. A very small town in the South. The town I live in is really small, or lived in, rather. It was like the population was like 200 or something, a real small town. I think back then there were a few more people. But back in the older days, so in when my parents' generations were teenagers and that type of thing, this town had a movie theater in it. And it was a cheap theater. I think it was a big hangout place for all the kids, obviously, to go and watch movies and things like that. Well, fast forward from that time period to about 1985, 1986. They decided that they wanted to show a movie in that old theater, which had been closed for years and years. And I'm too young to know why they decided to do it, but they wanted to show a movie there. And my parents, of course, who had dates there, my mother, who grew up in that town that I lived in, had a lot of fond memories of that theater. And they really didn't want to pass up the chance to go watch a movie in this theater that they grew up, loving as teenagers and such. And so I got to come. Me and my little sister as well. We were very young. I was like probably 6. My sister would have been around 4, something like that. And that movie was the iconic and often favorited movie Ghostbusters.
oh,
So I got to watch Ghostbusters for the very first time in a movie theater. Ghostbusters wasn't new then, but they had gotten a hold of the film reel. And it was in this tiny little theater in this tiny little town that had been closed. The theater had been closed for years and years. And they decided to show, I guess they were going to show one more movie in it and then close it down. Which it wasn't open. It hadn't been open for forever. But for whatever reason, they were going to do this. So I got to sit and watch Ghostbusters with my family. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little young for it.
Yeah.
You know, my son is almost 6 now, and he saw Ghostbusters when he was younger than I was. But kids now don't seem to be affected as much by movies. I think they're a little more desensitized just because of everything that's around them. But I was not at that point. The internet didn't exist. My exposure to film was whatever I saw on TV, and that was mostly, Disney movies or, whatever was on. And so I very vividly remember early on in the movie when the librarian's like, shh, and then she freaks out. I almost peed my pants. I had nightmares for years about that scene. And unfortunately, that's about my only memory that I have from that. But that was my first movie in a tiny little town theater that was doing an event to reopen the theater for one last hoorah.
It was a single screen
Yeah.
theater.
One screen.
And they
didn't fit many.
Do you remember if they offered concessions that night, or if
I don't
it was
remember.
just showing the movie?
I really don't remember. I do remember the theater had a balcony though. So it was a floor and then a balcony. And the balcony, was a little bitty, but there was probably 20 seats up in the balcony, something like that.
Neat. Pretty cool.
Yep, that theater's long since been torn down and is gone, but it was really cool to get to see a movie there. And I'm super glad it was Ghostbusters, of all movies.
Oh, super jealous of that.
I lucked out on that one,
Yeah.
even though I was too young to know it, because that movie just scared me. So you said you had another story for us.
Yeah, so my very first actual movie theater experience, I was still at home. Once again, my parents did not take us to movies, so I think I spent the night with one of my best friends at their house or something like that, and their parents decided to take us to a movie. And this was in a twin theater, so 2 screens.
Mm-hmm.
Very small theater. Still there to this day, in the nearby town where I grew up. And the movie we watched was Mighty Ducks.
Oh, nice. Emilio.
Yeah. The Mighty Ducks. And I really don't remember a lot about that night or about that movie. I think I've only seen it one other time. So not I don't know why it didn't really strike me and make it memorable, but I remember walking through the hallway to get into the theater, from the concession area to the actual theater room. I remember that, and I remember eating popcorn, but I don't remember much about the theater. That's the only time I've ever been in that theater, funny enough. But yeah, that's pretty much my memory of my first movie theater experience.
That's cool.
And so to total it all up, from the age of 1 to the age of probably 17, I went to the theater twice.
Wow.
And then
It's no wonder you went crazy.
After I got a job, I started going to there's another town further out that had a 8-screen cinema, I think. And I went there. I started going there almost every weekend, or any weekend that had a movie that I wanted to watch. And I would go. I'd find a friend and go. I think sometimes I went on my own. I went hog wild as soon as I was able to.
That's awesome. Get that taste of freedom.
I know, and it wasn't that my parents didn't like movies. Like, my dad watched westerns a lot. My mom watched movies at home. I guess it was just they didn't want to go anywhere, or they didn't want to spend the money to buy a movie ticket.
I can remember one time, a long time ago, I had a birthday party that I honestly I don't even know what age this was. If I had to guess, it would be around 11 or 12, but it could have been older than that. But we decided we were going to go see a movie for the birthday. That was going to be what we did. And we went to see the movie Days of Thunder.
Yes.
And we went to see that movie weeks after it had premiered. And so we were the only ones in the theater, right? Like it was about to go. We probably saw it on the last weekend it was out or whatever. But we went and saw that, and I remember having a good time there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, thinking about that memory, it makes me think of something that you don't see anymore that I used to love about going to the movies. And I haven't been to a theater in years, and I mean like decades, where I've seen this happen. Do you have any guess what I might be talking about? It used to happen before every single movie, and now it never happens.
The curtain?
Yes, the curtain. So those of you who are younger or that don't remember this, used to, when you would go see a movie, you didn't have this pre-show that played. It was just, you know, silence. Maybe you'd have some radio playing or something like that. But you'd sit in the theater, and you couldn't even see the screen because this massive curtain would cover it. This big, heavy curtain. It was always real thick. And right before they started showing the trailers for the movie, which they still did, what they would do is the lights would dim and the curtain would slowly raise up, and you would you'd hear like this little run of the motor pulling up the curtain, and almost always before the curtain got to the top, they would turn on the projector, and so inevitably the projector would overlap the curtain just for a little bit, like, you know, for like 3 seconds tops. And then the curtain would open and the movie would start. And that aesthetic is something that I miss and that I am extremely nostalgic for. But you just don't see it anymore.
That red velvet or whatever material it was
the
made
one
of.
I'm used to was red. And a lot of them were red. But I've seen blue ones. I've seen purple ones. They were probably all kinds of colors. But
yeah.
And it was always a kind of wavy. The ones that I remember, they weren't like just carpets that hung down. They were like wavy curtains. And I'm sure there were some that instead of pulling up would probably draw out to the sides as well. But the ones I saw all raised to the top.
Yeah, I think that's like nowadays movie theaters are declining. I think that's pretty well understood that movie theaters are dying off slowly, and the pandemic didn't help that much. And it seems like movie theaters are trying to do things to bring people back into theaters with reclining seats and ordering food and reserving your seat and all this stuff. But I feel like going back to this kind of big production, like making it look like you're going to a play, which is what that curtain kind of evoked, that would be awesome for me. Like having a mezzanine or a balcony in your theater, or a curtain or intermission, or all those things that kind of a play has when you go to see a Broadway play or off-Broadway play. That would be cool to me.
Yeah. The good old days. The good old days. It was good stuff, though.
Oh, yeah. Uncomfortable seats.
It was always either cold or hot.
Yeah, too cold, too hot.
And popcorn wasn't $10. It was cheap back then.
I have one more memory.
Yeah, hit me.
And it involves both of us.
Okay.
And I'm hoping you'll remember this, but in the old theater that used to be in our area, we went to watch a particular movie. I don't remember when this was, but it was it had John Cusack in it. Let me find it.
John Cusack.
1408.
Yes. Is that when it was flooded? Yes, it was so hot. It was like 85 degrees in this movie theater, and there was literally and I'm not joking, it was like a foot deep water in the theater. And this is going to be kind of hard to describe if you're listening, but the way that theater was designed was It had the traditional kind of slope, but it was a smaller slope. But then in the middle, it came back up just a little bit. And so what happened was kind of if you go back like a quarter of the way from the front of the screen, there was a little valley there. And the roof, it was raining, and the roof was leaking horribly. And there's like a waterfall in the theater. And there was literally like a foot of water standing in this valley. And they showed the movie anyway. So we're in there sweating bullets with a waterfall feature that's not supposed to be there in the theater watching this show.
Yes. And this is the end of life of this particular theater.
Yeah.
They shut it down shortly after. But it actually added to the immersion of the movie for me. Like, if you remember that movie, it was kind of trippy. Like, there was
a part where water like comes into the apartment.
There was a scene where the room floods, and I was like, this is like a 3D movie. An immersive experience movie.
Unintentional, but immersive nonetheless.
Yeah.
I remember that well. That was a crazy night.
Yep.
Oh man, you're taking me back with that one.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, guys. John and I have been watching movies together since at least the movie 1408.
Longer than that, though.
Yeah, but at least since then, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's going to wrap us up, guys. It's a CinemaMen. We want to keep it short. We picked a topic that we meant to be short. So there you have it. I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to encourage you, if you're watching this on YouTube, go down in that comment section. If you're not, send us an email or go to our Twitter page and just tweet at us. We'd love to hear some of y'all's first memories of going to the movie. It's something that gets us really nostalgic for when we were young, and we eat it up. Send us some stories. We get some, we'll read them on the next CinemaMen or on a podcast or something. I also want to remind everybody that we're still doing a giveaway. We have a Rocky Blu-ray set that has every Rocky movie in the core series from Rocky 1 through Rocky Balboa. So that's, I think, 6 movies in total, all on Blu-ray. Absolutely free to you, no shipping, no hidden costs, nothing like that. If you're interested in getting that DVD set, all you have to do is go to our Twitter page, which is CinemaMen Pod on Twitter, and we have a pinned tweet there that features this Blu-ray set. All you have to do is follow us on Twitter and then retweet that tweet, and you're entered. That's all you have to do. Once and at a couple of podcasts have gone, which will include this episode here being posted live to the podcast. We'll give it probably another week, and then we'll do the drawing. And everyone who has met those requirements, which again is just follow us and retweet that one tweet, will be considered for the winning. And it'll be, all we'll do is we'll DM you on Twitter, get your shipping information, and we'll ship that to you, no cost to you.
All right.
So yeah,
It's
that's
easy.
it. It's super easy. We're just trying to get, honestly, more exposure on our Twitter channel. So hope to see you guys there. Other than that, I'm going to let John, the info guy, do his spiel, and then we'll call it a night.
All right. Yeah, like Matt said, if you have a memory about your first theater experience, we would love to hear it. Any one of these CinemaMens we do, we'd love your opinions on the specific topic that we're talking about. So email us at feedback@cinemamenpodcast.com. Like Matt said, go to Twitter and look for CinemaMen Pod and just tweet at us. And we might read some of your comments on air. We, like Matt said, we do a YouTube. We do a live stream of this podcast and the CinemaMens every other Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. The easiest way to follow us on that is to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get a notification when we go live. And keep checking out these CinemaMens. Hopefully they're interesting and entertaining for you guys. We like doing them. And for those that don't like long-form podcasts, hopefully this is a good solution for you guys that like the shorter form podcast.
Yeah. And just a reminder again, in case you're tuning in or missed us in the beginning of the podcast, these CinemaMinis are raw and unedited. So what you're hearing is literally just us talking over Discord, basically. So thanks for listening. Hopefully the lack of any kind of production quality at all is not too much of a turnoff for you, because we really appreciate you guys listening and being here.
Yep.
With that, we're going to go ahead and close this episode of CinemaMinis. Again, even though I just said it, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And we can't wait to catch you on our next episode, which will be a regular podcast of the wonderful movie
Top Gun.
Top
Starring Tom
Gun. Will Goose survive this time? You'll have to tune in to find out. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you soon. Everybody have a good day, good night, depending on when you're listening. Good morning, maybe. Bye.
See ya.
Okay. All right, there we go.
Boom.
All right, all you guys on the live stream who are still watching, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. I always like seeing y'all. Hopefully this format is working out and you guys are enjoying it. We're really happy to have viewers, and it's kind of fun for us too. If maybe a little awkward. Maybe a little awkward because you're seeing it raw here, and we screw up a lot. But it's all for fun. We're just two dudes who love movies, who like to talk about movies. So thanks for joining us. As we said, we'll be live again in 2 weeks, 8:30. That would be, today is the 8th, so that would be the 22nd of June, around 8:30 Central. We'll be live again. If you want a little pop-up, if you're not too annoyed by those, you can go ahead and subscribe to our channel, and then the little bell icon, if you click on that, you'll get notifications whenever we go live. So we'd love to see you again. That said, it's about time we wrapped this guy up, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you later.
As soon as I get through this awkward part where you sign off and then you have to find the stop button.